Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Resistance broadcast. We are the official podcast of StarWarsNewsNet.com, and imagine if we sounded like this when we open our shows.
Please stop.
It's like the NPR opening. The base is open, everybody. It's time for the Resistance broadcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm John. Good to see you. This is our Monday show, news show. We're going to talk about a lot of cool stuff, including our Star Wars Newsnet report about some Ahsoka deets. So that's short for details. With me, as always, James and Lacey. Weekend's over. It's Monday. Time to get down to business. Business is good because there's some cool Star Wars news to get into. Mm-hmm. And we also have been doing a lot of training. We got a big matchup going on tomorrow night. So are you guys ready? I think I'm ready. I don't want to train too hard where you overthink it out. I just want to kind of go in a little loose. But yeah, tomorrow, 8:30 East, we're going to be live competing against the guys from Barstool on is it the Barstool channel or Lights Camera Barstool channel?
I think it's Lights Camera Barstool.
All right, so yeah, Jeff Lowe, Ken Jack of Lights Camera Barstool put together this Star Wars trivia thing they do, and we're going to be competing against those guys, including Robbie Fox and I'm not sure who else, but the three of us are going to go head to head with them live tomorrow, 8:30 on their turf. So we're the visiting crew heading in there to see if we can dethrone them from their little title over there. So you guys
dethrone them from their own show.
From their own title.
It's our show now.
Yeah, imagine it's
hey, Maul did it.
Yeah, right. You just go in and take over completely. So how you guys feeling? You guys ready?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think when we first talked about it, we were like, I don't know, but then we kind of were like, I think we actually got this now. We're testing ourselves against the other previous Star Wars trivia challenges, and
right.
I think as a team we all did pretty good. So
yeah,
I had a nervous breakdown. Quizzes make me nervous. I don't like it. I don't like SATs. I don't like tests. I don't like anything that feels like I'm being
Lacey, you got to be
judged.
like the fighters who pretend to be super confident going in, I'm gonna knock him out in the first round. And then it's like those hype videos, Like you did WWE work, right? You should do a WWE promo with the background with your logo on the back and stuff, and just have at it with Mean Gene.
I think the idea of my name being in a sentence with the word hype is just not accurate.
We're gonna have them call you Lacey Hype Gillerin. No, he's coming to the ring. Lacey Hype Gillerin.
No, but like James said, at first I was just like, what, why? And then it was just, as always, I overthink everything because I'm crazy, but...
Lacey.
What
is the name of the Rhodian pilot in Resistance?
I don't know. We had this...
Hype Phazon.
Yeah, it's your nickname.
We literally had a conversation before this episode, and I said the two things I never get right are character names and ships. And you're like, hey, here's a character's name. What is it?
Well, what's good is it's only movies, so we don't have to know Resistance and that sort of stuff.
But what I was going to say is I got really nervous talking to these guys about it, but it seems like it's going to be really fun, and I shouldn't overthink it. But then I actually went and watched an episode of the trivia, and I did pretty well.
Right.
Surprisingly well. I know a lot more than I think I give myself credit for, so.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun more than anything. Those guys are always a good time. We've had Jeff on our show twice. We had him on the Resistance broadcast a couple of years ago now.
And
maybe
then
even
the
three
Mando
years
fan
ago.
show.
And then he's on the Mando fan show with us this past December.
Yep.
When he was on his deathbed. But I guess he's...
and in a dark room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it was just a sunset behind him, I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah. But he survived and he's still around. But yeah, we're going to be doing that tomorrow. So check it out. 8:30 on Lights Camera Barstool on their Periscope on Twitter and their YouTube channel. And then obviously if you're not able to tune in live and root us on, we won't be able to hear you anyway. So you could tune in after the live deal and watch it there. But we'll see how we do. But yeah, we got that going on. We also have other stuff going on too, though, guys. We have our Rate the Resistance campaign going on for Apple Podcasts. So head over there if you are an iPhone user or use the podcast app for iTunes, which is now Apple Podcasts. Just rate us if you haven't yet. So find our podcast over there. Rate us 5 stars, hopefully. Leave a review if you'd like. But either way, rating or review, take a screenshot of that and tweet it to us at RBATSWNN using hashtag RateTheResistance, and you'll be in to win one of our variant shirts for Make Solo 2 Happen. The red one that you've been seeing some people tweet that they got theirs. It was only available on Make Solo 2 Happen Day, but you have a chance to win one. One of these shirts that you can't buy now, so it's pretty cool, and you're helping us out in the process too. So win, as Michael Scott famously said on The Office. But yeah, I think is that all that's going on. Oh, the other thing, speaking of shirts, right? We have a new design up there, right, James?
Yeah, we have Gary the Porg, now officially available.
Now an update.
An update, yeah. It's a rework, if you will, of our original Gary design. We thought he was great. We wanted to bring him back. So we got this version of him. He's cute, right? He's standing there. He's hanging out.
It's pretty cute. Yeah.
It's adorable.
Right?
Yeah.
And I think this version, too, like really showcases that it's supposed to be an image of Carrie Fisher's Gary. You can see very clearly that is that particular pug. You can see very clearly that he's also in a
French bulldog
as well.
Yeah.
Oh, whatever. Yeah. I said pug, but
you can clearly see it's a pug. It's like, wait a minute, it's not a pug at all.
That's absolutely 100% correct. In my brain, though, all of those dogs are the same.
Yeah.
No,
I think pug's the dog
can't
from
breathe.
Right.
It's like.
I think a pug's the dog from Men in Black, right? Wasn't that a pug?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's the little one with the little curly Q.
That's a French bulldog, I think.
No, it's the curly Q. I like dogs.
But yes, Gary is available on Blue in a large assortment of options for kids or adults or whatever.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's all we got on Gary. Go check him out, right?
Yeah, check him out. And then we hope you guys checked out our episode this past Thursday with Ryan Rucco, Yankees announcer, ESPN announcer. We kind of, I don't know, I obviously went into that really happy because it was blending two things I love, but like, man, he brought his A game. So I hope everyone got to check that out, because a lot of people responded saying like, wow, such good discussions throughout. And I really felt that. His answers that spurned other conversations, I thought it was terrific. So make sure you guys check out our episode from this past Thursday with Yankees and ESPN and NBA announcer Ryan Rucco. He was great, and I told him, come back anytime. He did such a good job.
Bring my boy Aaron, just bring him back. Come on.
Yeah, bring Aaron Judge onto our podcast. Aaron Judge is probably like, Star Wars is dumb. And then the last thing I want to bring up, Eunice
camera,
Huthar.
it would just be his chest here.
Yeah. Right. Eunice Huthar got her shirt, James, that you designed for her. That was part of the deal. Her coming on, and we made her bevy shirt, right?
Yeah. I don't want to say I threw it together, but it was kind of like a, hey, we should make you this shirt. And I was like, all right, and kind of kind of put it together. I don't know. I kind of like it, actually. I think it worked pretty well.
I think she liked it too. She tweeted it.
To be happy with it.
Yeah, so she was really happy. And she said, I wasn't gonna have a bevy today. But I got this shirt that says it, so I'm gonna have a glass of wine, and she did. So thanks again to Eunice for coming on and being so awesome.
She was really great.
Sharing that. But now it is time to move on to what we do here, and that is discuss Star Wars. And we're going to do that in the Resistance Report. James, what's up?
It's the Resistance.
Wow. Lots of stuff this week, guys. I'm serious. Like, I don't even think I can count that high on how many things we got to talk about in the Resistance Report. It is going to be a jam-packed news week. No, it's no more than 4. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? But then all these different stories are a little bit different. Apparently, Lacey can't count to 5.
I can't.
No. There's a behind-the-scenes reason on that. So, but let's get to our first major story, right? And this dropped on... what trade was this again, John?
StarWarsNewsNet.com.
That's right. StarWarsNewsNet.com. John, you wrote the story about the details of Ahsoka's appearance and role in The Mandalorian Season 2. So We've talked about this before. This section is going to be kind of spoilery because we have some, exclusive details here about what she's going to be looking like. But if you want to skip ahead, you can skip ahead. But I'm going to just lay it all out right now as the article did, which is she's wearing a dark hooded robe, likely gray. She will have more than just a brief cameo. It will be more than just a brief cameo. Her look aligns with more with the end of Clone Wars and less with how she looked at the end of Rebels when she had the white with the staff, so it's not going to look so much like that. And she will be igniting a lightsaber, and her lightsaber is in fact blue. But we cannot confirm whether she has two sabers. We're just going to likely speculate that she does. John, this is your story. Those are the deets, right? As you used earlier. I just learned that term tonight.
Yeah.
Give us some more of those deets.
You gave the bullets there. So over the past few months, we've kind of had discussions with people in the know, and you gather information and put them together. And what's kind of cool about this story, like you said, you did give the spoiler warning. It doesn't give any kind of stories away about what's going to happen in Mando Season 2, so people don't have to worry about that. So it really depends on what people are worried about knowing and not knowing. Do you care what a character looks like ahead of time? Do you care about, this or that? But my takeaway from it is that she is going to be using a dark gray Jedi robe. She's going to probably appear with it on, and, fear not, she is going to be taking that hood off, and you're going to see those horns and the whole deal underneath. It's not going to be a quick in the shadows sort of thing. Her role is going to be expanded more than just a brief cameo in this. And what I also find interesting, I was talking to Jordan Pate on Star Wars News about this when we were putting the story together. It's a big deal that she's using a blue lightsaber here because prior she was using the white lightsabers, which indicates that she was not aligned with the Jedi way. And now that she's, returning to a blue lightsaber, which we both kind of agreed, and I'll see what you guys think on this, that it's probably a new crystal then. She didn't go back and get those old lightsabers that she left from when Anakin gave them to her at the end of the Clone Wars. So she's kind of returning back her faith to the Jedi religion, and that's a big deal here, especially if this is kind of going to be a springboard into a new show for her. And she's definitely, without a doubt, going to be igniting a lightsaber, which is something that we had debated was going to happen with her in the show. Is she just going to pop up in a robe and we're going to see her and she's going to take Tiny and go somewhere? Is she going to have that staff from the end of Rebels? No, she is Ahsoka as you know her. And that brought me to my logical points after gathering all these facts for the story, is that they're going to use this thing, not using the Mandalorian as a test run, because the Mandalorian is their best product right now, but you are using it for her as a test run with audiences to see how they react to her in live action. And you're going to use everything about her look, her personality, her abilities, her skills, her action, so that the whole audience can see that and know and they can find out whether or not it's going to work for other projects. So you're going to see her use a lightsaber. You're going to see her in full action. You're going to see how the horns look in live action, as opposed to, we've seen other characters in Star Wars with those. This is a very important character to people. You want to get it right, make sure it's right. Do they move it well with animatronics? Are they using some CGI? All that sort of stuff. And the biggest one, does Rosario Dawson work as Ahsoka Tano? So I just think these beats are cool. It doesn't spoil too much for you, but it maybe beefs up the hype train a little bit for Ahsoka, knowing that you're going to get a little more than maybe some people were thinking, and that she may be back to full-on Jedi mode here.
Well, Lacey, what do you think? Because I know we had talked before, like, it was kind of confusing because the last time we saw her in this exact time frame, she looked different than what John's reporting.
Right. So going back to the earlier point of I'm bad at math, I'm also really bad at timelines, apparently, and I get confused when things take place. So like John said, the big question is, like, how did she go from when we last saw her to this point? And if she's back to a blue lightsaber, how did she get to that point? That's the big question, to which my immediate reaction is, like, did she meet up with Luke Skywalker at some point? Because he's bringing Jedi back, assumingly, after Return of the Jedi. He's trying to create the new temple that we see eventually in the sequel trilogy, and So how did she change her mind? And the only thing to me that would make her change her mind is like a Luke Skywalker or something related to that. So I wonder if he's going to be related or mentioned at all in the explanation of us seeing her the way that she is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of my big like missing moments in Star Wars is when are we going to see, or how are they going to handle Ahsoka and Luke being in a totally free galaxy and
right. You have brought this up before.
Needing to talk to each other.
Right.
Like what is their confrontation like? That I find it like impossible to believe that they, oh, you know what,
never
I know
crossed
of
paths,
him,
yeah.
never talked to him. Like I just can't buy that. They have to have some sort of confrontation.
They could work him in by having a hologram of his back talking to her. So like you don't see him, but you know it's him from kind of what they say in the docuseries of Mandalorian, where kind of like the silhouettes of characters are what's important, that you recognize them from seeing them. But yeah, going back to the whole thing, which is this is all about Ahsoka, but it's just that lightsaber color is definitely like a big thing. Like how did she have a blue lightsaber? And then a little bit of disappointment for me is like when she was in that kind of, we joke here, John says this all the time, like the Gandalf white Ahsoka with like the gray hood and everything. What changed? That's the big question. But I guess we'll see.
And, two other quick things, James. This could obviously, the whole flashback thing, that's possible, I guess, but I don't know about that. I don't think so. But
flashback? Wait, what?
I'm saying this could potentially be a flashback, and we could be seeing them showing us her in the Clone Wars era, Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I don't think so. I think this is happening now. The other thing, in our discussions with our contacts on this, they kind of gave us this vibe that it had a similar feeling of Luke Skywalker in The Last Jedi, in the way of like, I'm going to face down the First Order with the laser sword thing. And like, she's showing up to like take care of some business. She's not just, again, popping in with the hood and the staff thing. And maybe that's a mirrored arc that is similar to her former master's son, which could be a very interesting parallel.
That is interesting.
And maybe this, like we say, is the springboard to her getting a new series or something, because you don't bring in a talent like Rosario Dawson for some fan service cameos,
Right.
James, I know you probably have some thoughts on this, so.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, there's a lot. Number one, I mean, she's wearing a dark hooded robe instead of the familiar white. Well, last time we saw her wearing the white robe, she was getting ready to go on her perilous journey. There's no reason to say that, months later after they've been involved in this big ongoing adventure, she's been wearing that hood through rain and mud and all sorts of other things. So it could still be the same robe, just it's likely dark and grayed now because she's had even more stories behind her, more adventures behind her. A lot of the stuff, that you were saying about her comparison to like Luke showing up and wrecking shop, like in that all made sense to me. I see her as this. The thing about the blue lightsaber, that messes me up. Ahsoka, I don't care that they don't go with the white thing, although I feel like that would be smart for them to showcase the white sabers in live action.
Right. Because then you have the dark saber versus the white one.
Yeah, I mean that could be part of it. I just thought, like, for most people that don't know the darksaber exists, they brought it in and people are like, "What is that?" And now they can show a white lightsaber and they're like, "What?" Again.
What is that?
But you do blue, it's like, okay, we've seen blue. It's not really that big of a deal. But it's familiar. The thing that actually confuses me the most about this is her real lightsabers, the one that she built herself, and the ones that when she turned on were attuned to her place in the Force, were green. And that's confusing, because then she is someone who's tuned in with the Force, and that means she's not a knight. She is like a Yoda character. And over the arc, yeah, sure, Anakin messed with them and gave them back, and now they're blue. Okay, so that whatever. Then she has the red lightsabers from the sixth brother, and she purifies them to white. Okay, that's fine. But then if this lightsaber is in fact hers, it shouldn't be blue. Like if she decided to build a new one and pick it up, then that's fine. And I know Luke's changed. Luke changed from blue to green.
Could it be Luke's?
But could it be Luke's blue lightsaber? I did consider that as well. The comics showcase that when he gets his hand cut off and it falls down, a hooded person grabs it. But
that's right.
A hooded person grabs the lightsaber and they don't reveal who that person is.
Could you imagine the person's like, just draw a hooded person, we're not going to tell you who it is, just draw the hooded person.
Yeah. And then he goes looking for it and he's like, that lightsaber doesn't mean that much anymore to me because of his father and all this other stuff.
I bet it is
I considered that.
Imagine
that Ahsoka is using the Skywalker saber.
And then it ends up with Maz because at some point she gives it to Maz.
Talk about a story for another time.
Oh my goodness.
Well, also, I mean, it would be kind of poetic that she's using Anakin's lightsaber, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it connects all the stuff together now because then you have that lightsaber in all...
Lacey, I can't continue without bringing up that your impression of the guy directing orders for the comic team sounded like Mr. Mackey from South Park.
Oh,
just make it a hood figure.
Just make it a hood figure.
Just put a hooded person there. Good.
All my impressions end up sounding like South Park.
Yeah, me too. Usually, my JJ is pretty much a South Park ripoff.
Yeah.
So I mean, that is the majority of my thoughts. The only other thing that right before we jumped into it, something popped in my head that we were talking about her relation to Luke. How did they not interact? That also goes to show how unlikely it would be that Ahsoka has not also met Ben as well. There's a pretty good chance that she would have been around or been involved or known of the fact that Luke had taken on new disciples and other things like
Depending
that.
on when she died. Yeah.
Depending on when she died, you're right. Yeah. But I think that Ahsoka would have been or could have been alive at this time, especially
and
if there's no fights and no battles, she's just
that's true.
Doing what she's doing.
Imagine that crazy though, going back to the whole comic thing, that everyone goes, how did she get it? And then they're like, well, go read this comic. Like that's kind of crazy.
Well, I actually, to be honest with you, I think a lot of the times what these stories do sometimes is they're not like, oh, it's the explanation. It's more like we're going to plant this seed and it's not super important, but somebody who goes back and reads it, they're going to be like, holy crap,
right.
We missed this. Like, how did we not put this together? And that stuff
sense,
is just as cool,
Especially this news of the dark cloak. Just kind of like...
And it makes me think now back to... trying to connect these dots now from... this info here from our article, and then
I love when you
stuff.
Get on these threads where you're like, I'm connecting the dots now. So
I'm just trying to, like, and then the other like connecting this stuff from our story with other stuff that's out there that are facts, like Giancarlo Esposito saying he was breaking these dark sabers, fighting, and he was like having thrashing battles with them. Like, are we gonna see him and Ahsoka just freaking going at it, like just battling? Because who else would it be? Unless they don't fight at all. But, she's using a lightsaber in this show. Is it just going to be one of those things like Darth Maul in Solo where she lights the thing up and credits, Or are we going to see her fight? And I just keep leaning towards we're going to see everything Ahsoka can do because they want to see what audiences think of it. And
that
do
makes
you realize
sense to me, John.
if it is Anakin's lightsaber, that means that Rey eventually gets that lightsaber and she fights with the lightsaber that Ahsoka fought with?
That a lot of people have fought with at this point, yeah.
That would be nuts. Shoot. Like, Luke's obviously cool.
I think Lacey's starting to get it.
That would be crazy.
Starting to...
I don't know. Yeah.
It's this right here. Oh, yeah.
No. Wait, I can't see that.
Well, Oh. We run multiple cameras.
That's the person?
Yeah, that's the image.
That's interesting.
So it falls out, and then the person says, and I'm holding it up for the people, there's a close-up, it says, "Follow your destiny."
Imagine the person was like, "I am no Jedi." He's like, "Wait a minute."
To be continued, it says.
I don't usually... I feel like, James, this is something that you really enjoy, is connecting all these different storylines and mediums and all this other stuff. This is the first time that I've been
That's why I would be a good story group member.
Sure. I would fully support that. This is the first time I can honestly tell you that I'm like, what? If this happens, this means that all these things are connected. That there was a plan. What?
It happens.
Is this
to me
how
all
you
the
feel
time,
all
you know?
the time, James?
Yeah. Right now, I'm rereading Alphabet Squadron in order to get ready for the next book that's coming up.
Sure.
And
Shadowfall?
Alphabet Squadron has it has comic tie-ins as well with the TIE Fighter story that was all about Shadow Wing and all this other stuff. So I'm navigating between new book, old book, comic, and all these characters that are involved there. And, you know, it's so funny. It's like, these are all good stories, and people are just like, I wish they had new Star Wars. And it's like, just because they're in the Empire doesn't mean these aren't all new characters, you know? It's like, it's a totally different story, unique perspective
And
on
this
all
is
of it. But
this is if that is Ahsoka.
no, yeah, totally, yeah.
I'm just saying, if
it's
it ends up
crazy
being
speculation, but
I'm going to be like,
Like watch it was just Maz, and you're just like,
because we talked about that comic a little bit, and we were all like, oh, it could be anybody, you know?
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But now if it's this,
I mean, even if it was
so
Maz,
crazy.
it's still connective, and that's crazy
No, yeah.
that she was there.
But I feel like
you know,
Ahsoka's different, though, because if she's fighting with it, that means Rey then eventually fought with the same lightsaber.
yeah, but are you not? Are
as
you not?
Luke, as Anakin,
Yeah,
as Ahsoka? It's like,
yeah. Well, I don't understand why Ahsoka is like the amazing part of that
Because
lightsaber.
I don't see Ahsoka and Rey interacting at all. And we always talk about this. This would be them
that's what I
somewhat
think
are
is-
interacting with each other. We know Rey meets Luke and hangs out with Luke. We never
Yeah, but-
see...
yeah, and if you
Not
never
Anakin,
put
though.
those two things together, you're like, when you do see it, you're gonna be like, oh,
Yeah.
I just
Like,
all right.
I just,
This is the
just
most
put those
excited I've
pieces
been.
together. We're in the same
okay,
time.
let me
I
be
just don't want
excited.
to. I just don't want to blur the facts
yeah.
of this report that we
Okay.
did with speculation nation
Absolutely.
tinfoil.
Absolutely.
John, run down the facts one more time so people know what
Because then
is
they're gonna be
true.
like, "Oh, the Resistance broadcast put out this article where they said that Ahsoka got the lightsaber from the trash bin."
Absolutely not. Speculation.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Don't run with
I'm
it.
a trash bin. So,
Jeez.
no, John, go ahead. One more time. Run down so we can go on to the next topic.
I mean, you
'Cause
go to
feel
the
like
go to, first of all, go to the article StarWarsNewsNet.com and get all the information
course.
there. So the info is that Ahsoka is going to be wearing a dark gray Jedi-looking robe. She will not have the hood on the whole time. She will have it on and also then eventually remove it. So you'll see the exact aesthetic of all of her horns, and you'll probably get a season 2 documentary on how the things move and all that cool stuff. She's going to have more than a brief cameo. She will be igniting and using a lightsaber. That has been a highly debated thing, whether or not she would or not. And she looks more like she did at the end of Clone Wars than she does at the end of Rebels, even though the Rebels is more close to the timeline. And
Same
the
here.
significance of the lightsaber being blue, meaning that she may have readopted her allegiance to the Jedi way. And that's pretty much it. And that we can't confirm that she definitely has 2 lightsabers, but we think that is the case as usual.
Now, my report is...
All right.
There you go again.
I'm just
Let's
kidding.
run down
I'm
the facts
just
one more
kidding.
time.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You know how people do these things. They're going to say that I'm telling you. They're going
You
to
could just say
it.
that Lacey Gillerin said false information.
She thinks it's the closest character.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about some of these other stories. One of which is last Thursday we got the announcement of the From a Certain Point of View Strikes Back novel. This is the same thing as From a Certain Point of View, the original book that we got, on the 40th anniversary of the original Star Wars. This is the 40th anniversary of The Empire Strikes Back. Doing a very similar thing here, 40 different authors, 40 different stories, likely going to be 40 different characters and their perspectives on the situations, but it's going to be kind of a retelling of The Empire Strikes Back from those characters' perspectives chronologically. That's all we can assume, because right now they haven't told us who's involved, other than you can kind of speculate based on who's been teasing it, right?
Hyping it.
Yeah, Lacey, any thoughts on this book? Or did you read the first from a certain point of view? Are you excited about this one? I'm kind of iffy.
So I read a couple of the stories. I have it. It's behind me. You can't really see it, but I have the same version that John has, which I think was the New York Comic Con exclusive, right?
Yep.
I thought it was okay. It's just, it is what it is. Am I excited about this? Yeah, sure. I'll read more stories and different points of view. My one critique is I feel like in the past year, maybe year and a half, there's been a lot of teases and hyping of books. And I feel like sometimes they hype it too much, and then that takes away from the actual announcement, because people are expecting one thing and then get let down that it's not the thing they think it is. And that goes back to these conversations we constantly have about fan expectations. I think that's my one critique, and I would just kind of, if I had to give some advice, I'd be like, hey, maybe don't hype it so much. Like, let it just be its own thing. Like, it doesn't need that, like, secretive GIF tweet.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not always their fault. Sometimes it's like scoop writers and trade writers,
Sure,
who tease something without being under the umbrella of publishing that cover all of Star Wars, and they're like, some news coming tomorrow, and everyone's like, we're getting the Rian Johnson trilogy, we're getting the Taika title, we're getting this, JJ's coming back, he is, that sucks, no, it's cool. It's like all this stuff, and then it's like, we're coming out with a comic in 6 years. And
so the thing I think with that is, and this kind of goes on to the responsibility of the people that work at those trades, is like, even though you're not saying what it is and you're abiding by that embargo, like, you're kind of not, because you're saying something before they actually get to announce it themselves. Like, I feel like a lot of people announce things or do these little teases to get retweets or likes or clout or whatever, and it takes away from the actual announcement of the people that have been working hard at said content. And that's what I see it as, is like, okay, you're just literally scooping them. You're ruining the announcement.
I mean, also too, but a lot of this is coming from the writers too.
Right.
Like, Gary Whitta in this case was saying, hey, there's some news coming, stay tuned. And then he's like, it's happening tomorrow. And then he's like, today.
I think that's a mistake too.
And it's like, because he's like kind of leading the charge, Gary Whitta is involved with Rogue One. There's a Cassian Andor show coming.
Sure.
So it's also partly, the people who are involved that are also kind of teasing and causing people to speculate on stuff that isn't exactly happening.
I like the cover. I'm I love that it's Yoda. I think that's a great choice.
Yeah. The original book to me was like, I was like pumped on it. I was like, that's cool. It's going to be whatever. Or it's going to be exciting. And at the end of it, I just kind of thought it was whatever, because I could barely make it through. Like, a lot of the characters and stories I just don't care about. Like, it really is like, I praise, like, everybody has a story, but sometimes it's like, it really is just like that background guy who's standing there and he doesn't have anything interesting. It's like, so I woke up this morning and I went to the place and I was like, oh, I work for the Empire. That's a good thing. I do my duty. I'm like, I don't care about these characters. They literally, like, it's interesting, but it's only interesting in like the like thumbnail, like, it's here if anybody wants to read it thing.
Right, or it goes into
a database at that point.
Right, and it goes into characters explaining things that, like, kind of like what you're saying is, like, don't need explanation. So, like, the bad motivator droid, like, we didn't need to know that he, like, sacrificed himself. Like, I don't know.
Do you mean, like,
to me...
Do you mean like a sand trooper on Tatooine getting crotch itch from riding on a dewback? Is that what you mean?
To me, the biggest thing that comes... Yeah. To me, the biggest thing that came out of that was the Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon Force Ghost reunion thing.
Sure.
Because we're still using that as like an example of what Force Ghosts can do. And the other thing that everybody forgets about is at the very end, they talk about how the wills exist And way, way, way in the future, R2 is still around retelling the story of Star Wars. And so it has 100% guaranteed R2 will never die.
Is it, they consider this canon, right?
Yes.
So I'm not a big fan of these either. And I'm really not going to be a fan because Empire is my favorite movie. And I don't want it to be like, you never really understood how this story is. Or, it's, you know,
and
I know that's kind of
perspective.
crotchety.
No, it does, because you have a connection with it.
I know. It's a crotchety, like, that's the way it was and that's how we liked it sort of thing, like Dana Carvey on SNL. But old man yells at cloud. But really, you know, the one that bothered me the most from the first one was Yoda, like, saying, like, we wanted to train Leia, not Luke. And it's like, what? It's like, that changes everything. Like, that's just... I don't like that. I'm sorry. That's strange to me. And that's like, really... like, did George Lucas say that was cool? Because that's a big deal. And you're putting it in this book next to a story about a stormtrooper getting crotch itch from riding on a dewback. It's like,
George is
come
like,
on.
it's poetry. What the hell? I didn't approve
Yeah, he's
this.
like, no, that's not how it went.
I don't mind that story as much. Like, I could have seen that would have been a discussion that they had, but the thing that I don't like about it is the way that it lines up in the movie, where apparently if Obi-Wan and Yoda had this discussion, then why would Obi-Wan be like, there's literally nobody else? And Yoda would reply with, no,
There's another.
Right. It doesn't, he wouldn't say that. He would be like, there's still Leia, or there's still the other one.
Right.
Remember that conversation
we had 10 minutes ago?
Right.
Yeah, it's just that the wording doesn't make sense anymore because we know that they have discussed this. To summarize that, it's not new information to Obi-Wan.
Sure.
Right.
In the movie, when you just watch the movie, it's new information to Obi-Wan. No.
Right.
Just like
Actually,
you. Yeah, like the
fun fact,
the audience.
There is another.
I see these books as, like, fun, like, fables, or like some of them are a little, like...
You read Myths and Fables?
Like deleted scenes. They happened.
Not even deleted scenes, because sometimes people are like, well, it's still canon, they just didn't show it. But it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's almost like some of these are just told because they're clever. Like, it's like, oh man, remember that one thing that was in that scene everyone ignores? Like, let's give that an arc for 6 pages. Like,
I just think it's supposed to be fun for anybody who wants to look into it.
But it's that whole damn
there,
canon thing. It's like, now this is the gospel of Star Wars. Crotch itch.
Well, to be 100% fair, and I know somebody's probably already yelling at the radio, but like, I think that they did say that all of these stories are canon from a certain point of view.
Well, that's why, like, Matt Martin always says that. He's like, there's no
So
canon.
they
He's
are
smart.
canon if you want them to be, or they're loose, or maybe they're a retelling of a story that somebody heard, so maybe it's not all canon. And I think they kind of just play with that.
Like, if some Star Wars fans like, did you know that Yoda really wanted to train Leia and not Luke? And someone's like, no. Like, it's just no need to go, like, I don't know. You get my point.
They're like, says who? And they're like, says this book. And they're like, oh, maybe from a certain point of view.
All right.
All right. Next story is that The Mandalorian is bringing in Extraction director and Marvel veteran Sam Hargrave. He's going to be directing certain segments in Mandalorian Season 2 as a second unit director. So, John, what do you know about this story? Do you know much about Sam?
I don't. No. Lacey, do you know more about this guy?
I watched the trailer for Extraction words on Netflix. It came up as something suggested for me after I was watching, and I was like, oh, let me see what this is about.
Netflix is always wrong on those. They're like, you might want to watch this. I'm like, no.
Well, I saw Chris Hemsworth, and I was like, oh, what is this? And then it was like Russo brothers, and I was like, oh, let me keep watching. It's like a crazy war movie where this guy's trying to protect this kid, and it's very...
I heard it's good.
It's very interesting, though. It's
seen
like
it.
The Mandalorian, where he's supposed to go do something, And then he finds out it's a kid, and then he changes his mind
Yeah.
and he protects the kid. I was like, so
And it's like him versus everybody else. Yeah.
right,
Oh,
similar
cool.
to the Mandalorian. So that would
Yeah.
make sense that it then would. But I think he's just very good at action sequences, which is what he says in the interview of, they needed someone to do action, so they brought me in. It was very cool.
Yeah.
He talks about the volume, which I feel like is just like a no-brainer. If someone asks how it was, like, you're gonna talk about that because it's just so like crazy awesome. And the way that he talked about how it's going to change things just got me super excited because, it's just going to keep budgets down for more content because that's always the bottom line, unfortunately, with a lot of these projects is how can we make money but save money and not spend a lot of money, but also keep pushing content and be creative. And then again, it's very interesting that they keep pulling people from Marvel. I get it. Marvel is a powerhouse. It makes sense that they would do that. It's just very interesting to me that one by one you see these Marvel people coming over. And I don't know if that's Jon Favreau because he started the MCU, that he's just pulling people over. He's making those connections. Is it a Disney thing? Or is it just people that like Marvel most likely like Star Wars too? Because he made it sound like he was like, oh, I was having a conversation, they were doing stuff, and they called me over. I said, sure, why not? And that seems like all the people that are involved with The Mandalorian have very similar conversations with Jon Favreau, where they're like, oh, I was at a pizza shop, and he walked in and was like, hey, you want to come over and hang out with the Mandalorian set? And they're like, yeah, sure. And then they show up, and they're directing an episode.
I got to go to LA and hang out at more pizza shops.
I know, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the
Ellie's.
pizza probably won't be great, but...
Oh yeah, go ahead, James.
Well, I was going to say, I actually want to give a shout out because we started at the beginning of the episode saying that we're getting ready to go on Lights, Camera, Barstool, right?
Sure.
I'm a listener to their podcast, and they had Sam on the show 2 months ago, somewhere around the beginning or the early eras of pandemic, but when his movie was about to come out. And even on the episode, they said, you just did second unit directing for The Mandalorian. What can you tell? What can you tell us and stuff? And he says that Jon Favreau brought him in specifically because they wanted to up the action on season 2, which is really cool. But this guy knows what he's talking about, man, because this is someone who worked, as he says in the interview, I went back and re-listened to it again. He worked under David Leitch and he worked under Chad Stahelski, which are very, very well-known stunt people, stunt coordinators, and then moved into directing. Chad Stahelski is behind the John Wick franchise, and that gets massively praised for all of the action that they do. And he is like, he learned under these people. And Extraction was originally supposed to be a David Leitch movie, and he took over. And but all of the stunt stuff that he has done has been really his connection to Marvel, like we were talking about. Marvel. He is the stunt double for Chris Evans. He is Captain America in all of the movies. He is the stunt double.
That's so cool.
So he has been very heavily involved in all those movies, including Infinity War and Endgame, and
2020 is the year of the stunt double.
Yeah, worked with the Russo brothers and learned all of this stuff, from them as well. So I, just as someone who had this movie come out on Netflix, good movie that is getting buzz and it's full of action, and he's very heavily involved. He's coming in to up the ante and up the action in Mandalorian. Yeah, good pick, right?
Yeah.
I think he's
Great
probably
pick.
working with Deborah Chow because she's the one that's always talking about how she likes to shoot action and that's what she really enjoys. I could see them
That's good
teaming up
speculation.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see how much he's involved in terms of episodes, if he was brought in for the full gamut, doing second unit work, which means he's working with the two stuntmen.
It seemed like
Brendan.
a couple. It didn't seem like the full thing from what I read.
Did it say
Yeah,
that? I don't know.
I mean, he said out of his own mouth that that Favreau brought him in to up the ante in season 2, up the action ante. So that makes me think that it's not like just one episode.
Yeah,
Right.
Probably spread over a few.
A couple.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not sure, his involvement, obviously, but the fact that they feel the need to up the action is interesting. You obviously have a lot more characters coming in. We're constantly hearing new actors coming in. What roles are they going to be playing? So it sounds like this is going to be one of those situations where it's like, it's just bigger and better in season 2 for the Mandalorian. And then the other thing that like kind of flies under the radar, he was like, "Yeah, I know Baby Yoda's name."
Did he say that?
Yeah.
I didn't see that in the. Oh man.
I didn't see that either.
He said, he's like, "It is excruciating to keep this secret."
Oh.
So
which reminds me of.
So we know it's happening.
Reminds me of. Remember Yoshi saying like knowing the existence of Baby Yoda, and now we know that. But they've said even in season 1, what's his name? Carl Weathers was like, yeah, he has a name.
I like that you chose the phrase, "What's his name?" You were like, they said in season 1, "What's his name?"
No, right. Yeah, I forgot Carl Weathers' name.
I'm like, that is what they said.
Yoda's
What's
name.
his name?
No,
Yeah.
so it hasn't been. There's no secret that it has a name, but for whatever reason, they're being deliberate on its reveal.
Yeah.
Now him, Sam Hargrave working in season 2 and saying he knows the name. Does he know that because he was on set and there's just chatter about it, or does he know because he was involved in it and they are going to reveal it in season 2?
I mean, we're watching the gallery right now, and on the gallery they're like, the baby.
Yeah, is Ahsoka going to be like, Tom? Let's be like, that's it.
Yeah. I think they're going to reveal the name, and that's why besides the Christmas timing and everything, I bet the packaging for those toys coming out in December are going to have its name on it.
Which means they're going to be leaked out on Reddit.
Ba-dum-bum.
All right, ending that on a bummer note. We're talking a lot of Mandalorian tonight because also the company Image Engine, they revealed a sort of making of the Mandalorian and all of the things that they worked on. They put it into this like demo reel, if you will, and put it out there on Vimeo for people to check out. Lacey, I'm going to start with you on this one, or John. I don't know. I
tossed the last one to Lacey.
Go for it, John.
Yeah.
Well, John, you're up first on this one. What do you think about the graphics?
I don't have a lot on this. I think what I liked best about the video is it was short. I appreciate that very much. And also it had the main theme of the Mandalorian playing, and I always love that. When you hear those 2 notes, I get chills. I get jazzed. I get fired up. Like I listen to that song to get fired up. Like just I got to go out and mow the lawn. Let me put on the theme of the Mandalorian and let's go. Like Spotify. Rocky. Yeah.
You're riding your mower to the Mandalorian theme.
Yeah. Maybe I should film it and splice in the audio and just post that on like Patreon. Me mowing. I'll wear extra. I'll wear extra high tube socks that day.
Like, this is my favorite part.
Right. One time I was doing leaf blowing and I was like kind of doing a little bit of a sips the tea type of video on Twitter because people were doubting us and BSR reporting about the trailer date, and I was like,
no, I think you were. It was the
trailer date. I think I was like, I guess there's a trailer coming out tomorrow. And I was blowing leaves in my driveway. I should do the mower thing. I should ride in the mower with the Mandalorian theme. But
I feel like you said you were also talking about how people said you got paid by Disney or something.
Oh, I had a lot of Disney money. Yeah. As I'm using my battery operated leaf blower from Black & Decker.
Leaf blower.
Black & Decker, sponsor our podcast. It's cool seeing these layers come in, and it's like one of those things like when you guys do designs for the podcast and stuff, you're like, how's that look? I'm like, that looks awesome. And then you're like, oh, it's not done yet. Here, this is the final version. I'm like, whoa, that looks awesome. So like when I see that thing and they're literally throwing the layers in, and I'm like, wow, that looks so cool. Whoa, that looks really cool. Whoa, there's rivets on that thing. It's cool to see how they can do all that, especially this day and age where it's really cool to be retro and talk about sets and practicality and all that stuff, and just see how much of these environments are really digital and not just the volume display, which has a fully realized image. They're showing you how that they're layering these things to give these actual objects, these walls, these people, these buildings, a true like blueprint and architectural aesthetic to make it real and make it work in terms of ratios, proportions, and everything. It's not just like when you go to, I think it's like Hollywood Studios and Disney World, and you see like New York, and it's just like the background is just like
that's
2D.
Not there anymore.
Well, if
it's
you
now
went,
Galaxy's Edge.
It would be like a cardboard cutout of like Manhattan. But if you go to the
Sure.
side, it's just a piece of cardboard. On this, they're like, no, we're doing the whole deal, even though you're not going to see any of it. They're probably putting elevators in these things, and you're never going to see it. So I don't know. All that stuff's pretty cool. And then the flying Mandos being fully CG, I thought was really cool. Like I did not
Right. Yeah.
expect that at all. I thought that was
Very cool.
Yeah, not guys
So
on
let's see-
wires.
Yeah. I thought they were
Yeah.
stunt guys dropping in because
I did too.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like half and half, where it's like digital, and then when they're on the ground, it's a guy.
But it doesn't surprise me because Jon Favreau did Iron Man, and they're very much, similar Iron Man.
I just want to know because
Build-ish.
Jon Favreau plays pre-Vizsla. Is that
Yes.
He does the voice.
He does the voice of the Vizsla in this too, and I part of me wants to see Jon Favreau in a Mando suit.
Yeah.
His little,
yeah,
like,
that would be fun.
His little big body, his big body with the helmet on. Just that's I want to see that.
That would be fun.
That would be interesting. Lacey, what were your thoughts on the demo reel?
I love when ILM releases these. I know this is an ILM, but like when companies release the process, because I think it really opens people's eyes of how much work goes into these projects and how much time and effort and talent. I mean, speaking to Yoshivu, like how much time it took him to do things and the little moments, like he's saying, like, oh, the light here, I had to work on it and then I pass it to someone else and then they work on this part. I find this stuff extremely interesting because I don't know anything about it besides what I can read about it or see videos like this. But seeing the blurg like be rotated and it shows you all the different lighting that they put on it so that they can then have it in the environment in different lighting types, and it has like the different textures. And in my day job, we have a couple people that do 3D environments, and they have to build every texture of those environments. So like John said, when you see them layered one after like the other, it shows you from the ground up what they're building. But it's just crazy that it starts from like, you see this big street on this planet and you're like, wow, it goes on forever. And then it actually only is like a little square block. And it's just nuts. But yeah, I just appreciate it so much because I know how much work, skill, knowledge, talent, passion that goes into these things. And oftentimes they kind of get a little overlooked because we're just so used to seeing them now.
Yeah. And I think when we talked about this one for The Rise of Skywalker when it came out, and
Sure.
you brought up the same point, it just showcases how much hard work goes into what they do. And I came back with the opposite of that. And I was like, sometimes I think these videos are like, yeah, all you got to do is just throw this layer on and throw
I
this
remember
and
that.
Yeah.
No, that's a good point though.
It's an interesting thing because I would say if there was one thing that bothered me about this is I was like, it's yay long. I would rather it be twice as long and then they spread out showcasing each scene.
Like a time
because
lapse
it
of drawing and stuff.
Well, I just felt like I was like, okay, play pause. Play pause. You're like trying to stop it and see everything that they added. I was like, I want to look and see this frame and see how it's different from the last frame. I almost feel like it should be like A and B, and then B moves over and C comes up, so I can see like the next
or
step.
some text to
And
show you what was done.
I could pause it and look at the two compared, but instead they just like overlay it.
Right.
And it's like now it's like, well, the last one's gone. So if you didn't see the I don't know.
It was more like one of those.
I think it's cool, and I love the way that it is because I think it's just supposed to be for the masses, and they just kind of throw it all together, and you'll be like, look how many different layers. And
I think it's
crazy
for
things that we did to
awards.
this. That's the
Yeah, I was just
point.
about to say
It
that.
is absolutely yeah.
But the music, though, John's completely right. As soon as the music kicks on, I'm like, I don't care what they're showing.
No, yeah. Yeah.
Yep. Well, then, is that it for that? Because we got one more thing to talk about.
Yep.
The last thing is Jedi Temple Challenge, right? Ahmed Best is back and better than ever, right? He has now officially launched his new show as producer and host. But the Jedi Temple Challenge debuted last week on Wednesday on the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel. Lacey, what did you think of this? Did you watch the first two episodes?
I didn't watch both the first two. I watched the first one, and I'm going to probably watch the second one by the time this comes out. But I've seen the first one, and this show I would have died if this existed when I was little. Like, this show is everything that I grew up to, which was Legends of the Hidden Temple and Guts and, you know, Video Arcade and those type of shows that are like a combination of physical challenges and then also knowledge based, and then you're adding in Star Wars. I thought it was super fun. I get super competitive as a person. Like, that's just how I'm built. So like when I'm watching these shows and I'm seeing these kids fail, I'm like, what are you doing? And I get like really annoyed. I'm like, Tommy, stop laying down on the platform. Obviously go the other way and you won't fall off. Like, you know, but
Poor Tommy.
It's just, it's fun to see.
It's like laying back. Like,
That's what I was saying.
Stop,
like, what? Go
stop laying
forward.
back.
What are you doing? I just, it's really cool to see kids getting engaged with Star Wars at an age that I know it kind of made me who I am. That taught me different, you know, lessons and values, and kind of built me as a person. You know, that's what Star Wars did for me. So it's cool to see people have and kids have that engagement. Ahmed Best is amazing. He is such a good host. He's so funny. He's really like noble and like regal, and I love that. Like, he has that like kind of like air of like, I'm a Jedi. And sometimes I feel like when you see, especially in the parks, some people like posing as Jedis, they're just like, hey, I'm Mark and I'm a Jedi, and you're like, ugh. Like, he embodies that character, and as we've learned from him, like, he made up backstories and all this other stuff. The droid is a little much at times. I think it's because it's a kid's show. They have to have that character that's like over the top. And we've talked about this before with like Resistance has those characters that are like, whoa, 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 like crazy moments. And you're like, okay, this is a kid's show. I have to remember this. The one thing I also noticed was there are definitely some Galaxy's Edge tie-ins here. So in the bin, when they're digging through the bin for items, there's like dolls from Galaxy's Edge. And then the end, when they make the lightsabers, that's very much what the experience looks like from Galaxy's Edge, where they're making lightsabers. And I was like, man, Disney's looking to make that money, because you know kids are going to go to Galaxy's Edge. They're going to have this specific one. But like, how cool is that as an experience? Like, you see it on TV, you see the lightsaber, and then they're like, now you can become one of the Jedi Knights from Jedi Temple. And
yeah.
Like,
and they got to do it too. Like, it's like going to the set of the show in a way.
Yeah.
Don't have a chance to be on our game show?
Yeah.
Give me $250 and you could experience what it's like.
It's $200.
But anyway, overall, I just thought it was super, super fun, and I wish this existed when I was younger. I would have loved to do it, even though I probably wouldn't have been on it, but I could dream.
Yeah.
John, do you have any thoughts on Jedi Temple Challenge?
So I didn't watch the whole thing. I watched the beginning of the first episode, and then, but I purposely skimmed to try to find the spots where Ahmed Best was doing monologues and like talking and explaining things, because I wanted to see how he was, like Lacey was saying.
Yeah.
And I thought he did a really good job. I thought he was very good with the kids and kind of telling them they lost, but in a way that was positive. Like,
Yes.
I was gonna note that too, is that he said, you know, you didn't lose, your journey continues,
and we may
but
see
unfortunately have to go
you.
back
We
for
may
more
see
training.
you before this is all over, or go back to the
Yeah.
Jedi training thing, and he
Except
does the hand
Tommy.
motion, and yeah,
Tommy
So
doesn't get to go back.
Yeah.
Tommy gets kicked
So
out.
I thought he did a great job in terms of the hosting, but I'll admit I didn't watch the whole thing. I do think it's great for kids. I think I'd be right in my wheelhouse if I was a kid, just like it was with like Double Dare and all that other stuff.
All the slides and the foam pits, and it's so cool.
Yeah, I'd be all over it, and I think kids are gonna like it. One thing I found a little concerning though was the view count was not very good when I last checked it. Like, the first episode was like 65,000 views, and the second episode was only like 17,000 views.
I wish they put this on Disney Plus. I feel like it would do very well on there.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, I may have done worse.
They probably felt that, you know, they tested in reviews and they don't think that it did that well, so they would rather give it to a wider audience
Or put it on Disney Channel.
And again, this is one of those. Well, then you got to pay. You got to get involved with the advertisers and do all that
Synergy.
stuff.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things that you can watch any time. It's not like, oh, you need to watch Jedi Challenges episode 1 before season 2 comes out. So this is something that kids can watch, and it could be a slow burn. It's not something, well, we got to check the numbers on this because we only have so much space on YouTube. We got to, So I think it takes pressure off the show by putting it in this platform. It takes pressure off Ahmed Best, obviously. They didn't want to put Ahmed Best in a situation where he's going to fail or get flack from people. I think this is a safe thing. It's a fun thing. It's great for kids. It's perfect for him to be redeemed in the eyes of Star Wars fans. Maybe the people who were 35, 40 when The Phantom Menace came out and were lashing out at this guy because their kids' franchise was ruined by this lizard CGI character now have kids, and their kids are watching this guy be their Jedi. I think that's a beautiful thing. And maybe it makes those people rethink how they treated him. He's come a long way. Like, this whole underlying thing about this guy is he went through dark times, like really dark times. He almost killed himself. And now here he is back playing a Jedi, producing this show. He had a rousing ovation at Star Wars Celebration. So I think the show being good, like I said last week, is just like a cherry on the sundae for the story for this guy. I do want to, I probably will go back and watch them just to soak in the full episode so I can understand what it's all about and compare it to the shows I liked as a kid.
It's very much Legends of the Hidden Temple, like with the story and the quizzing and the...
I figured that, but it's also just a good thing to see them focusing on the fact that Star Wars is for families and is for kids.
Yeah.
Because there's constantly people saying they want to edge up Star Wars and make it grittier, make it more, I don't know, not sexual, but make it more adult, and that's not what it's about. It's never going to be about that. And when you can draw in the next generation of young kids to like Star Wars fans, that's how you keep a franchise alive. That's how you keep it vital. That's how you keep it going. So for all that stuff, I think it's good.
Some kids could
cheers
grow
to
up.
Ahmed Best, honestly.
Yeah,
Really.
absolutely. And I think some kids could grow up with Ahmed Best being their Jedi. Like, that's awesome.
Or they're Mark Summers at the very least, and that's awesome.
Yes, but I'm saying, like, some kids that might not be into Star Wars might come across it and then really have fun with it, and then he's the Jedi that brings them in. Like, that's really awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love the show. I think he did really good. But I loved, my favorite part was the, by the way, what's in those bags? And he goes, the bags are empty.
Yeah, see,
I am controlling the weight of the bag. I literally laughed out loud.
Tommy.
I was like,
wait, what was this now?
He said he was using the Force to make the bags heavy.
So one of the things they do is they have to have these weighted bags and they have to climb over something. And then the droid said, by the way, what's in those bags? And he's like, the bags are empty. I am controlling the weight of the bag.
Because were the bags empty?
And it's just like,
No.
It's funny because we clearly know that he's not. And that's the best part of it.
But kids don't know
I
that.
think,
yeah. And they're like,
that's pretty good.
Yeah, I know.
He just hated Tommy. That's good.
Yeah, it felt like a dad joke. Like
Yes.
the kid's trying to ask a serious question, and he's like, "The daddy monster will get you." Or something.
That's
it felt, but it was really well done.
I did laugh
and
at
I
that
think
part.
the greatest thing that I take away from the show is that the show's obviously not for me. We've said that a million times, but my two really close friends are on that show. And I love watching it because my friend Ahmed Best, who I feel like I know because of all of the things not revolving around the show, but everything else about his life, and now he gets to do the show. I feel like I'm watching it just because my friend Ahmed Best is on the show. I don't know him, but that's how I feel, right? Mm-hmm. And I feel like that's everybody in our age is only watching it to see how he handles, and when he tells jokes, you're like, oh, I get it. You're funny. You're a good guy. And I'm watching it just because you're my friend. The other friend that's on the show is Star Wars. And the way that they toy with this, like the dark side, like coming in and messing up the challenge and stuff, and they have the option, and it's Sam Witwer is the voice of the evil.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Jedi, yeah. And so like they're doing a challenge. John, I know you didn't finish it, but like they're doing a challenge, and then if in a point Sam comes in and he says, just press the button and you can skip this challenge, but like
Oh, I totally hit the button.
It becomes harder for him down the line. if they do that, but they could use the dark side.
I was like, don't do it. Don't press it.
I know, but then even after that, I was like, this is the perfect way to handle like the dark side and the temptation and all this, because they're like putting things together, and Sam's going, you're doing it wrong. Those pieces don't go together. And they're like, they have to fight with a literal voice pounding down on them, telling they're doing the wrong thing.
So basically, this is a different version of Willy Wonka's Chocolate Factory.
Kind of.
Okay.
With Legends of the Hidden Temple, yeah, but
right. The Ewoks walk out and like roll you out, like.
But like the evil voice is also that like.
Well, I thought you meant more like Slugsworth.
No, I mean like be in my factory, but don't do the wrong thing, because then it'll get worse for you. If you do the right thing, you'll make it onto the elevator.
Yeah, it's similar. It's the idea that George is like, the dark side is like cheating, cutting corners, temptation.
Yeah. Right.
And that's what this is.
And I feel like they handle that very well.
That's cool.
And like the way they're like playing into it is,
Just
I'm
press
like,
the triangle.
Okay, this is Star Wars dumbed down, but like in a really good, like wholehearted way.
That's cool.
So like I said, it's your two friends, and you're only watching it just to see how Star Wars handles the kids show and how Ahmed best handles
a lot of our listeners have kids that probably are right in the wheelhouse of this show, so I want to know in the comments if they've watched it and what they think too.
One last thing.
I also want to know if all of these kids are now officially canon. Like I could look up their Wikipedia
please.
page.
They're not.
But they became official Padawans and Jedi Knights, right?
Boy.
But one
All
last
right.
thing on this. The in the ship, when they do the engineering challenge, where they do like they tell you the story and you have to remember what color was this? How many things were there?
I was like, how did these kids do this?
Yeah, it's Legends of the Hidden Temple, where they do the story and you do the step down.
Yeah.
But what made me kept laughing with the two kids on the headsets. They're next to each other, right? And they could clearly hear the other person. So there were a couple times that they were cheating a little bit. But then also when they just kept being like, we got this. We got this. We got this. Just get it right. We got this. And then they would like, if they got it wrong, they'd just be like, like they were like making noise.
Yeah.
It made me laugh so hard because
Like,
I was doing it at home. I was like,
I half expected those kids to randomly curse, like, because like they'd be like, "This next question is for the engineers" or whatever, and the kids are like, "Crap."
Or like that one kid kept getting it wrong, and the other kid was like carrying the team. I thought he was going to be like, "Come on, Braden, jeez."
Yeah, I know.
Carrying the team. Anyway.
Well, that is probably the longest Resistance report we've ever done.
Yeah.
So, Lacey, what's up next?
Up next is our Patreon pod race. So, our Patreon pod race is where our generals from patreon.com/resistance broadcast get to be a part of the show. So there's a lot of different ways you can support us. You can like this video, comment, subscribe, follow us on Twitter at RBATSWNN. But if you want more from us, more content with mini episodes, polls, mailings, etc., you can head over to patreon.com/resistance broadcast. We actually recorded a mini episode the other day that was pretty much an extra episode, so just keep that in mind. So before we get into this, I want to give a quick shout out thank you to our generals, which are Carmelo, Andrew Staley, Jeremy Myers, Neil Shaw, David Probus, John Reese, Micah Harrison, Tampa Movie Guy, Michael Gaines, Jetta Rosewater, Beer Fett, Bethany, Russ Harbinson, Kendall Gelnar, and Val Trichkoff. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Resistance. So with this segment, we get to have our generals be a part of the show, and we're super excited this week to have one of our newer generals be a part of the show, and that would be Bethany. So we asked her a question, and then she gives us an answer, and we kind of react to it. The question was, would you like to see Dave Filoni direct a Star Wars feature film, and do you think that will ever actually happen? So Bethany, take it away.
Hey James, John, and Lacey, thanks for having me on the show. I would absolutely want to see a Dave Filoni directed Star Wars feature film. It's a natural progression for him from directing the Clone Wars and then Rebels and then the live action Mandalorian episodes, and I think if he did direct a movie, I would want to see Jon Favreau be the executive producer. You've talked about this on the Mando Fan Show about how there seems to be a kind of two-way mentorship going on between them, and I think a feature film would benefit greatly from that relationship and camaraderie. And secondly, I really want to see Dave Filoni have the opportunity to create a live-action set of characters that operates as a family unit, similar to what he did with Clone Wars and Rebels, and I want to see that apart from the eras of Star Wars that we're all familiar with. So that's my 2 cents. Now back to beer.
Awesome. I didn't think that I would ever see someone drinking a beer with a straw inside of a Mando helmet, but it was epic. I didn't know
Beer Fett.
Oh yeah, sorry, Boba Fett. You are Beer Fett. That's why I said that.
Yeah.
But I never knew I needed that until now, Bethany. And now that I've seen it, it's all I've ever needed. Okay. John, what did you think of Bethany's answer?
First of all, great shirt. Great shirt. One of a kind, sort of. But no, yeah, you make great points. You brought up the Mando Fan Show. We kind of talked about that weird dyad between Favreau and Filoni and how they had the perfect match. One being a brilliant filmmaker with all this knowledge of film history, and then the other being just this historian of Star Wars itself, and them kind of together melding to make this great product. That would be great to see in a feature film. If Dave Filoni directed a film, I would love for Jon Favreau to be the executive producer on that. So I like what you had to say about that. And then the familial aspect is very important. And you bring up a great point about how the Clone Wars really does develop that relationship between Obi-Wan and Anakin, and even the clones in their own right, giving them personalities and identities, and making you kind of care for them as a group as opposed to just this assembly line of soldiers. So and in Rebels, of course, that's the bigger example, I think, of a family. So if he could bring that into a Star Wars movie, like you say, I think that's a wonderful thing. It would be a great thing. And those are the types of stories that really resonate in Star Wars, I think. So you make great points. Great job. First pod race, done very well. And it's not a beer, but I have a straw. So cheers to you, Bethany.
James?
My quick thing is just like, I think in theory I like the idea of Filoni being in charge of a live action movie because I think he handles Star Wars very well. But, not for me. I don't think, if not Filoni, then you're going to get someone of what Taika Waititi's caliber, of J.J. Abrams' caliber, Rian Johnson's caliber, Ron Howard's caliber. You know what I mean? Like, I think if in fact Filoni were to do it and Favreau was executive producer, I feel like that would feel very backwards. Like, I feel like you would want Filoni producing a movie, but you want Favreau directing it. So, not to disagree, but I think we're on the right path with, I think their collab works really well. But yeah, I understand your answer, and I like that you have a custom little like Mando helmet. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. Yeah, your answer is great. I love that you brought up how the Mando Fan Show, we talk about that mentorship / partnership between Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, because I feel like that's so important to that series and to kind of the future of Star Wars, is where we see new people coming in, yet kind of the mainstay Dave Filoni, who knows Star Wars through and through, kind of taking a step towards live action and working together, but then also wanting to continue on his own quest and journey to do more, which is just exciting. So it's like they're not leaving anybody behind. So, but yeah, awesome answer. Thank you so much for your support. We love chatting with you and having fun, and your video is just so freaking hilarious. But yeah, thanks so much. And now we're going to head to John for Ask the Resistance.
I've been wondering, what are midichlorians?
Okay, Ask the Resistance time. You guys send us questions, and we do our best to discuss these, give our takes on them, hopefully give you the answers you're looking for. And if not, send another question next time. All right, so we got a few here. We're going to go, the first one here is from Stephen Bowman at Stephen A. Bowman. What's up, Stephen? Good to see you. Lacey, this one's going to you. What planets would you most want to revisit in future Star Wars live-action projects? Are there any from the books or legends that you hope get live-action treatment? Solo gave me my big one, Corellia, but I need more. So a little Veruca Salt. He needs more.
Keep
Another Willy
that
Wonka.
going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Hi, Steven. Great question. I would love to see Coruscant again. I really love that planet. I think we saw a lot of it in the prequels, but I think there's so many, obviously, levels of that city we can explore. That's one of the reasons I was kind of very interested to the Duel of the Fates script, is because they mentioned it. I don't know if I agree with where it went, but I was just excited to see the word Coruscant. I would also love to go back to Takodana. I know we kind of talked about this a little bit around Make Solo 2 Happen Day. If there was when a solo series happens, him to go see Maz would be just such a great connection to the sequel trilogy, and to see her castle again before it got totally wrecked would be super cool. But yeah, I think both those are cool, as well as Naboo would be interesting to see. Mostly like the prequel planets for me, because I feel like something like a Tatooine, we've seen a lot of it. Like, I'm good on Tatooine. I'm good with Jakku. We don't need to go back to Jakku. So, but yeah, that's my answer.
All right.
I love Maz's castle. I think it's going to be in High Republic.
It's so cool. It's with her little, like,
could easily be
her statue on the top. It's so cool. And all the flags.
Rest in peace, Maz's castle.
Yeah.
Okay, James, this one is going to you from Blaga the Hutt. We know Mandalorian starfighters were in the Battle of Exegol. Do you think the Mandalorians will build up their strength in Season 2 and we will see some of their forces?
We'll see some of their forces. This question is interesting just because it just goes to show like the ups and downs of the Mandalorian race, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Why weren't they around in the original trilogy? Why weren't they fighting in that battle? Well, they were down at that point. Why aren't they, around here and there? Well, they were up and they were down. And I think the Mandalorian is the beginning of the rebirth of the Mandalorian army, if you will. And I think it is very likely that somewhere in the sequel trilogy there were background conversations with Leia, like, hey, can we recruit the Mandalorians? They're around, they're powerful. But I think what's interesting is that there's a decent chance that they show up more regularly in the Battle of Exegol as well. We just can't see it, They're around, they're there. It's very easy for them to say later, yes, there was many groups of Mandalorians that showed up that day. But in that period of the Mandalorian, from where they're rebirthing to who knows when, before, after, during the prequel or the sequel era, yes, there's probably a very good chance that Mandalore has built themselves back up. That is what their species is about. Even though the Empire completely tore them down, the rebirth and the reshaping of the Mandalorian culture is at hand, and I think you are seeing the beginning of that, and that's why Din Djarin's character is going to be so relevant to the Mandalorian story later down the line. So yes, I do think the Mandalorians are riding the wave right up. This is the beginning.
Buy stocks in Mandalorians, because
right
you're buying
now.
low. Yeah. No, that's a great answer. Good point. All right, next one is from Yoshi Vu at Vu Yoshi. What is up, Yoshi? He asked, so I wonder if he's looking for more work. Do you think that there will be special editions of the prequels or sequel trilogies? What might be changed? So I think the sequel trilogy is perfect, especially Episode 9, like the Death Star stuff, and especially the TIE fighters and the Death Star. I think that stuff doesn't need to be changed at all, Yoshi.
I see what you did there.
Perfect. No. So here's my answer on this. Prequel trilogy, I think, should have special editions. I think they should use the modern technology they have to make updates to a lot of the clearly dated CGI work done in that movie, especially Jar Jar Binks specifically. I always say this, imagine seeing a modern Jar Jar Binks and the wrinkles you can put in his face and make his nostrils move a different way and maybe his eyes a little more realistic, all down the line. And then all the other things, a lot of the other creatures and that sort of stuff, and the movements and the weirdness of Anakin riding that weird dog tick in Attack of the Clones is very choppy and weird. Like a lot of stuff like that, I think could be helped by modern CG technology, like we're seeing with the Mandalorian. But I don't think they're going to do it because they don't want to desecrate George Lucas's work. And unless he's involved or gives the okay. Which maybe he would. I don't know. That'd be very dangerous for them to do that, I think. Very, very tough sledding there. So I don't think that they will. And sequel trilogy, too early to tell. It just came out. So for me to think, wow, that looks bad now, I don't know. Everything looks great to me, like even like Carrie Fisher and all that stuff. So my final answer is they should make a prequel one. They won't. Because of George Lucas and respecting that, and sequel too early to tell, Yoshi. But thanks, man. Appreciate that question. Last one, guys, quick. Tom Rose at Towhead81. What is more fun for you guys to discuss on the show? New and upcoming rumors and projects, or past Star Wars projects and your reactions to them? Real quick, what do you guys prefer to talk about on the show?
I prefer new and upcoming rumor projects.
This is tough for me. John, what is your answer?
I love speculating, so I'm with James. I love talking about the upcoming stuff.
I like reacting to stuff. I feel like it's I'm a very what I'm feeling at the time, or what experience or mindset was I in at a certain piece of content. So I like talking about that, and it helps me connect with others and connect I don't know, all my experiences with Star Wars together. So I guess I would say reacting, but new stuff is cool too.
Right on. Thank you, Tom. Appreciate that question. Told you to be quick. All right, guys, that is the end of this episode, though. We want to thank everyone for listening and watching and being a part of the Resistance. Make sure you do subscribe to us. Free to do, easy to do. Apple Podcasts, SoundCloud, Spotify, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts. Also, of course, if you're watching, right here on YouTube. Make sure you get your notifications on, because we post 2 episodes every week on Mondays and Thursdays. And we have 1 more episode of the Mando Fan Show coming up on Friday to end this run. And of course, we'll be back with that in October when Season 2 of The Mandalorian kicks off. And we learn what Baby Yoda's name is. And see that blue Ahsoka lightsaber. But make sure you guys go on to StarWarsNewsNet.com every day for your latest Star Wars news, reviews, editorials, information, and more. And go check out the article we posted on Friday detailing all the specifics on the Ahsoka stuff that we kind of ran down in this episode for you today. Teespring.com/store/Resistance Broadcast. We talked about it at the top of the show. Got the new Gary the Pork design for you. All of our other designs there, including Make Solo 2 Happen. Not the red one, though. If you want that, rate us on Apple Podcasts. Screenshot. Send it to us on Twitter at RBATSWNN, #RateTheResistance. And we covered everything else, right? So you guys can find me on Twitter at Johnny Hoey, and writing and editing over at StarWarsNewsNet.com. James?
Twitter and Instagram at Myra Trunks.
Lacey?
Dragon Ball Z reference.
People can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Lacey Gillerin.
We will be back on Thursday as always. This time we're going to be discussing... Do we view the big 3, Han, Luke, and Leia, differently now that we've gotten their full stories from the sequel trilogy. So we're going to have a fun time discussing that. And of course, it's going to be One with the Force or Will of the Force. You'll find out on Thursday. Our patrons know. If not, you'll find out Thursday. But we hope you enjoy your weeks. Stay strong, stay safe, be well, and we'll see you around, kids.